Hi, it's Pastor Veronica here with your daily devotion. We are continuing our deep look into When God is Silent by Barbara Brown Taylor. Once again, we are not reading cover to cover. We are just reading excerpts. So I'd love it if you could get yourself a copy of this. Maybe so you can see a little bit better. So this is available with Cloister Books or Cowley Publications. So get yourself a copy, help support an author and fellow pastor, and just get a chance to read everything that's in here because this is an amazing resource. I think everyone should have a copy of this book on their shelves. If I ever get a chance to meet Barbara Brown Taylor in person, I look forward to being able to tell her how great this has been of a resource for me and my ministry and in my personal life. Again, we're on the second section, which is called Silence. I also wanted to remind you that our devotions take place every Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. and 6:45 p.m. And I'd love for you to join us. Of course, if you can't be here at 11:30 a.m. or 6:45 p.m., that's fine because all of our devotions are available on Facebook under our videos section. Usually within a few minutes of them wrapping, they're available right on our Facebook page right away. Usually within the 24 to 48 hours following, we make sure that all of our videos that we create, from devotions to story times to worship, are available on our website, www.colleenemmanuel.com, and also available on our YouTube channel. And just go to YouTube and do a search for Emmanuel Lutheran in Colleen, and you'll find all of our videos there as well. So make sure you check that out. If you aren't able to watch the videos live, you can watch them later on, and all of our past devotions and other events are available as well. So if this is your first time joining us, you can find the stuff that we filmed back in March and April and May and June and July and August, and now we are in September. So let's hear a little bit more from this chapter on silence. Ezekiel kept his lips pressed firmly together until God shoved a scroll through them. When he still refused to speak, God put a divine lock on his lips. "I will make your tongue cling to the roof of your mouth so that you shall be speechless," God said to him in the 3rd chapter of his book. And it was not until the 33rd chapter that the ban was lifted. But at least Ezekiel remained in the presence of God. Jonah did his best to flee it, going west when God said to go east, as if he could actually turn his back on God. These people knew what it meant to be bearers of God's word. That word was a hot coal, a potter's fist, a hungry bear in the night. One spoke it at risk of one's life, not only because of the reaction it might provoke, but also because of its origin. To put God's word into a human mouth was to push flesh to its limit. It was like carrying nitroglycerin around in a crystal goblet. It was like describing the Pleiades over a tin can telephone. And yet, people did it. Because God commanded them. People still do it, although I am not sure we reckon it a risk anymore. When we speak of God, we do not sound so much like people with fire shut up in our bones, as we do like people who are blowing on gray coals, hunting around between breaths for anything we can toss on top of them that might keep them from going out altogether. The landscape has been picked pretty clean by now. We can lay our hands on so little that many of us have resorted to secondhand fuel, subscribing to magazines full of homiletical kindling that has already been used elsewhere. It works about as well as those pressed wood fiber logs you can buy at the grocery store. It keeps the fire going, but it neither looks nor smells like the real thing. Where has the fire maker gone? Where is the God of the burning bush, the God in the pillar of fire and cloud, the God who personally incinerated one whole bull in the contest on Mount Carmel, although the altar had been soaked with 12 jars of water? The obvious answer is that we have turned away. From our fright at the foot of Mount Sinai to our uneasy acquaintance with the patriarchs and prophets, plenty of us have concluded that we are not up to direct encounter with God. We want it, but we don't want it. We want to be warmed, not burned. Except where God is concerned, there is no such thing as safe fire. Safe fire is our own invention. It is what we preach to people who, like us, would rather be bored than scared. And yet there is scriptural evidence that God has turned away from us as well. The silence has two sides. In the 3rd book of Isaiah, God is very forthright about turning away from the people. "Why do we fast, but you do not see?" they complain. "Why humble ourselves, but you do not notice?" It is God's absence that has provoked their questions, the creative hiding of the divine face that has brought the people out of their own hiding. Once God has their attention, they get their answer. It is not God's absence from them that is the problem, but their absence from God. They have substituted liturgy for justice. They have fasted without offering their untouched food to the hungry. They have put on their sackcloth and ashes without removing the yoke from the neck of the oppressed. God is silent because they do not speak God's language, but it took God's silence to teach them that. I really like that last section a lot. In fact, I like it so much that I'd like to read it to you. It is God's absence that has provoked their questions, a creative hiding of the divine face that has brought the people out of their own hiding. Once God has their attention, they get their answer. It is not God's absence from them that is a problem, but their absence from God. And here she explains what she means. They have substituted liturgy for justice. They have fasted without offering their untouched food to the hungry. They have put on their sackcloth and ashes without removing the yoke from the neck of the oppressed. God is silent because they do not speak God's language, but it took God's silence to teach them that. It's really intense to hear that, to think about the fact that, there are people who do these things. We talk about this a lot, when we talk about fasting, don't go out on the street corners and moan and groan about how your belly's empty when you're fasting, but put, oil and soot on you so that you look healthy and happy and fed and act like everything is normal. So to fast in private, fast only for you and your relationship to God. This is an example of, all right, well, we're going to fast and we're going to do this thing so that God will love us even more, and then not doing anything else with it, making it completely about yourself and not about the other or the neighbor. I always appreciated, I had some friends who used to do something during Lent. For the 40 days of Lent, what they would do is they would not drink water from sunrise to sunset. And what they would do is whenever they would think about purchasing a drink or buying a drink, they would take that extra money that they would have spent and put it in a piggy bank. And then they would take that money and use it to buy a well in a developing country. And so they took what they weren't consuming, and then they were able to use it to help someone else. And that's exactly the kind of thing. They were hearing God's voice. They were listening to God saying, don't just do this for you, for strengthening your relationship with me, but do this to strengthen your relationship with all of the people that I have created, for all of your neighbors. And I just think that is so powerful and so amazing. And that is exactly true here too, is they put on their sackcloth and ashes without removing the yoke from the neck of the oppressed. It's like saying, oh, boo-hoo, look at me and this suffering that I'm going through in order to invoke this relationship with God and to make my relationship with God, more serious and more devoted. But then not caring about anybody else. And that's a good thing for us to think about. It's a good learning experience for us to consider that it isn't just about us, that having a relationship with God is not just a, me to God, God to me, but also God observing our relationships with other people. I mean, it's the reason that God sent Jesus, was to be in relationship with us so that God could learn how we are in relationship with one another. God is silent because they do not speak God's language, but it took God's silence to teach them that. I wonder what we learn when God is silent. What do we experience when we feel as if we are reaching out to God and looking to God for strength and love and courage, and we feel like we're getting nothing back? Have you ever wondered what God's silence might mean? I know that there have been times in my life where I've wondered, where is God in all of this? Why isn't God speaking out? Why isn't God doing something? And then I think, well, what am I doing? And quite often I think that God speaking to us is when we figure out what it is that we need to be doing to be a good neighbor, to help others, to be helpful, to be kind, to be devoted. I think often that the silence shakes us just enough so that we can know what it is we should be doing at that time. I'm so grateful for Barbara Brown Taylor's collection of sermons here and the things that it challenges us to hear, because it isn't always easy to hear. And I really am, I'm really grateful for this one in particular, this section, because it does challenge me, particularly when she talks about not wanting a direct encounter with God. We want it, but we don't want it. We want to be warmed, not burned. Except where God is concerned, there is no such thing as safe fire. Safe fire is our own invention. It is what we preach to people who, like us, would rather be bored than scared. I know one of the things that's really hard for people to understand is that when they hear a sermon that challenges them to think differently, they think that it's bad, or I'm bad, or I'm a terrible pastor, or my sermon is terrible. But I think a lot of times it's in those sermons that you hear that challenge you to think differently, that might scare you into thinking, hey, I should consider doing things differently than I am right now. That maybe those things scare us and make us feel uncomfortable because they're meant to. That we are getting challenged by a sermon because God has a message for us that we need to hear, and that pastor's sermon is the only way we're going to hear it. It might make us mad or frustrated, disappointed. It might make us want to leave our church. But I think that it's when we feel the most strongly about a message that we hear, that those are the ones we should be paying the most attention to, because they're the ones where God has been silent and is now speaking up to us. So I wonder if you could just recall for yourself some times where you felt uncomfortable, either in a worship experience or a Bible study or a sermon, one that has really challenged you to think differently. Maybe it was a sermon that just ticked you off and you wanted to get up and leave and walk out. I want you to sit and think about that and think about why it is that it was so upsetting or so hard to hear. Listen for God. Maybe God has something to tell you in that. Well, that's all I have for you today. And again, just a reminder to join us on Wednesdays at 11:30 a.m. or 6:45 p.m. for your daily devotion. Also, all of our devotions are available on our Facebook page, on our website, www.cleanemmanuel.com, and on our YouTube channel. Just look up Emmanuel Lutheran Killeen, and you'll find all of our previous videos linked there. I hope that you have a wonderful day. And remember, God loves you, and so do I. Goodbye.